following program is exclusively produced and distributed by Dick Dinman's Double D Productions, Inc., all rights reserved. Hi, Golden Age film fanatics, and welcome to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. My name is Dick Dinman, and our goal is to become your exclusive guide to the very best of the Golden Age classics coming out on DVD. We'll have reviews, breaking news of upcoming releases, plenty of surprise guests, and a special feature devoted to the great Golden Age film composers, which we call Cinemusic. So let's turn on the marquee and lights, camera, action. It's time for Dick's Picks, in which I get to shine the spotlight on one of my Dick's Picks of the week. Considering the superb quality of the 4 just-released noir film classics that we've received from the Arrow Academy home video outfit, it seems rather incredible that in our 16-year broadcasting history we've never covered their clearly superlative releases. But this is a grave oversight that we're happily about to correct. Let's start with the highly unusual So Dark the Night, in which director Joseph H. Lewis elevates the twisty, pulpy material with some of the finest noir touches the genre has to offer, which he also accomplishes with the shocking noir sleeper My Name is Julia Ross, a briskly paced and brilliantly stylized mystery that grabs the audience from the start to its violent finish.
Here is the most fascinating mystery drama of the year. With Nina Foch, whose dream of romance became a nightmare of terror. Dame May Whitty, willing to kill to save her son's life. George McCready, whose every kiss brought death nearer.
How much longer is it going to be?
The whole plan had to be convincing. Now we can make it look like suicide.
But when?
Tonight.
Oh, why doesn't somebody listen to me for once instead of believing her all the time?
I'm terribly sorry, but my daughter-in-law is upset today.
The police will be here today, and you'd better see to it that I'm all right when they come.
You mean because of this note? The one the gatekeeper found?
Stop it!
Then, from one of the masters of the film noir genre, Robert Siodmak, comes the consummate crime classic Phantom Lady, which boasts stylish cinematography, cruel characters, and memorable performances from Franchot Tone, Ella Raines, and perennial punching bag Elijah Cook Jr. Purists will possibly wrap my knuckles or gulp worse, because I include director Fred Zinnemann's The Day of the Jackal in this Arrow Academy noir release list. But I do in fact consider this gripping and nail-biting cinematic experience a film noir masterwork. Every one of these suspenseful Arrow Academy Blu-ray releases have tons of special features and extras, so we're delighted to announce that So Dark the Night, My Name is Julia Ross, Phantom Lady, and The Day of the Jackal are now available from the Arrow Academy in the sight and sound perfection of the Blu-ray format, even as we speak. Stay tuned for more Dick's Picks, coming up on DVD Classics Corner on the Air very soon. And what a joy it is to greet our returning guest, Alan K. Rode, author of the acclaimed bio Michael Curtiz, A Life in Film, and Film Noir Foundation Charter Director, who, by the way, contributes an excellent commentary on one of the Arrow Academy Film Noir Blu-ray releases, My Name is Julia Ross. Alan K. Rode, welcome back to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. It's always a delight to have you as a guest on the show.
Thank you, Dick. It is great to be back with you, and looking forward to our chat this morning.
Oh, yeah, especially since we are going to discuss two superlative releases from the Arrow Academy people. One is Phantom Lady, and the other is My Name is Julia Ross. And I believe both of these two films actually would constitute a perfect double bill. They really seem to complement each other. And after watching them individually, I spent another night making notes while having them as a double feature, and it was perfect.
They're both of these films I'm very, very fond of, and I was really gratified that Arrow Academy reached out to me, and I was able to write for Phantom Lady. They didn't go with a commentary for a variety of reasons, although there's a lot of other special features, but I was able to write a essay, booklet that comes with the Blu-ray about the making of the film, which was really a voyage of discovery because I found out a lot of interesting things. And then on Julia Ross, which is a film that I'm really fond of, I was gratified to do the commentary track on that. And I had met Nina Foch and knew her slightly, went to her memorial, and I admired her and liked her tremendously, as did many, many other people here in Hollywood. So it was a win-win for me, and you're right, it's two films that are equally matched in terms of quality with one another.
Not only quality, but in terms of reception, because especially with My Name is Julia Ross, with a budget of $175,000, this was not expected to create any kind of a significant stir, but to be tucked safely on the bottom half of a double bill. And yet, this film achieved critical acclaim and audience approval way beyond Columbia's Harry Cohn's expectations. And I find your commentary on Julia Ross to be wonderful. It's my favorite feature on this Blu-ray. You did reveal a few things which I have to admit disappointed me just a little bit about director Joseph H. Lewis, in that so many of his late career or late life statements, frankly, are ridiculous.
Well, that's true, and I certainly have no desire to trash the late Mr. Lewis because he's an obviously very talented director, and I love his films, Gun Crazy, Julia Ross, and many, A Lady Without a Passport. He was a very, very talented fellow, but one of the things that has meaning to me as a writer and a historian is accuracy and truth, such as one can find it. But
oh, you mean you're one of those purists who insists on accuracy and truth?
To the limits of my endurance. But getting back to Joe Lewis, this is something, with his claims that he did everything in his films, so to speak, that was wonderful, and that he scheduled a first-run premiere, and he did this and did that. And when you go back and look at these things, and Mr. Lewis isn't the only one that is guilty of this. Howard Hawks was notorious about this.
Oh, yeah.
You read some of the later interviews with Jack Arnold, the Universal directed. I think by the time he was near the end, he did everything in The Incredible Shrinking Man, including playing the spider. So this is thing. So I point these things out not to denigrate the good work of these men, but to point out what is true and what isn't true. And in Mr. Lewis's case, there certainly was some late in life exaggeration. However, I don't think that detracts from the excellent job, as you pointed out, that he did with the film that Harry Cohn probably wasn't even on Columbia boss's Harry Cohn's radar. it did really, really well and boosted everyone's reputation associated with it, especially Joe Louis.
Yes, indeed. And we have to talk about the cast. Nina Foch had done nothing much, just some really low-grade B films before this. And My Name is Julia Ross did not significantly advance her career as much as I would imagine she would have hoped, but at least she was given more, well, I would say more quality assignments at Columbia, and major leading men like Glenn Ford and William Holden. Both of whom, by the way, I met her on quite a few occasions and worked with her on one television show. And she was very, very positive about both Ford and Holden. And especially when we talked about this film, she was extremely enthusiastic about Dame May Whitty, who she absolutely adored. And everyone adored Dame May Whitty. And, of course, no one is ever going to cast this wonderful, kind lady in a villainous role. And they did, and she is wonderful in. Don't you agree? She's really excellent.
I think Dame May Whitty and George McCready are like the mother and son from hell. Particularly those scenes where McCready's in this manic the kind of scenery chewing
cushion chewing.
Yeah, cushion chewing, stabbing stuff, and she's saying, "Put that knife away."
Yeah.
You know, and she gets to get on to the business of hand, which is, murdering Nina Foch, up the murder of McCready's wife.
Yeah.
And all that. And the whole gaslighting plot, the suspense that builds, and just the free and easy economy of the way Joe Louis tells the story, but with real expert work with the camera and the mood, even from the opening scene, credits where you see the back of Nina walking through the rain to the employment office, which kicks off the story. It's just a beautifully shot film, and it showed what Joe Louis could do with a tight schedule and a minimal budget.
That's right. And as a result, he did get higher budget films, though.
Undercover Man
was
an A film, and it had, Joe Louis was reunited with Nina and Glenn Ford. It didn't do particularly well, but it definitely, it was a higher echelon film. Then, of course, he did Gun Crazy, followed by A Lady with a Passport with Hedy Lamarr. And one of my favorites of the Joe Louis canon is The Big Combo. 55. To me, that's the apocryphal film noir of the 1950s. And then he, at a reasonably young age, he said, "I'm done." He had his boat up at Newport Beach and his house with a swimming pool and money in the bank, and he just basically said, "Hollywood, you're dead to me."
Oh, I didn't know that. Good for him. Good for him. And by the way, we spoke about how unusual the casting of, and courageous the casting of Dame May Whitty was. You can't say the same for George McCready's participation, because he's played this role time and time again. And every time he's absolutely brilliant. I always have maintained that the Columbia lady symbol should have been kicked off her perch, and George McCready should have been put on it instead.
That would have been interesting. I wonder what Harry Cohn would have said about that.
Yeah.
Well, McCready was, he was a newspaper man. He was very well educated, graduated from Brown University, an Ivy Leaguer. But and he was, I think he made his debut on Broadway in The Scarlet Letter back in the 20s. But what I really loved about him is he could either be an aristocratic villain, a psycho, an arrogant snob, and he had that distinctive scar on his right cheek.
Yeah.
Now, one would imagine that was from like a fencing, or it's actually from an automobile accident.
Yeah.
Had that wonderful voice, was a great character actor, and interestingly, he and Vincent Price shared a lifelong passion for art, and at one time they opened a art exhibit store in Hollywood.
Yeah, I know.
Had a business together, but there was no one in the movies like George McCready.
No.
Just watch Gilda.
Well, or any other of the 6 billion movies he did for Columbia.
Exactly.
I mean, a flawless actor who later graduated to some sympathetic roles, and Kirk Douglas, for one, was a huge fan of McCready and constantly reused him very effectively, of course.
Paths of Glory. I always remember him. He's that horrible French officer who fired on his own troops.
Yeah. The bottom line is my name is Julia Ross is a sleeper no more. It is a wonderful film for all audiences who love suspense. It has qualities of Rebecca to a certain degree, and it's beautifully, beautifully acted. It's a very, very special picture. But we're about to go to another, even more, to my mind, special film from Arrow Academy after our station break.
We pause now for station identification.
DVD Classics Corner on the Air is exclusively produced and released by Dick Dinman's Double D Productions, Inc. All rights reserved. And we're back with Alan K. Rode. And Alan, I have to tell you, when I heard that Phantom Lady was finally going to be released on Blu-ray, I was a happy camper. This, to me, is, in many ways, a remarkable and courageous film in some respects, because they obviously allowed Robert Siodmak his head and gave him the ability to create some memorably jarring and very eccentric scenes that totally enliven this remarkable film. Siodmak is, as far as I'm concerned, my favorite film noir director. How do you feel about him, and how do you feel about Phantom Lady?
Well, I love Phantom Lady, and it's really the coalescing of three of, as far as I'm concerned, icons of classic American film noir. You had Joan Harrison, who this was her first producing credit. She was a screenwriter, started out as Alfred Hitchcock's secretary in England, went on and was the credited writer on a number of his films, including Rebecca and others, and this was her first independent production. She was hired by Universal, and this made her one of, I believe, 3 women who were producing films in Hollywood in the 1940s. So talk about a glass ceiling. I think it was made of titanium. Joan Harrison was there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Robert Siodmak, of who you spoke so eloquently. And Robert Siodmak was the most consequential of American film noir directors. And this is where he really cut his teeth. He came over rather late, and his brother was already a writer on Universal, and Robert got a leg up working with his brother on Son of Dracula, and then really became a bankable director on Universal. He Cobra Woman with Maria Montez and so forth. And this really fit him in the types of films Universal was making during World War II, the sword and sandal epics and the horror mystery films. And Phantom Lady was kind of a new phylum on that. And, of course, Phantom Lady was based on the story by Cornell Woolrich.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom Lady was really the three of these people coming together to make a film that is really memorable and really elevated, was the beginning of good things for all three of them as well.
And deservedly. But the thing that strikes me most about Phantom Lady, like My Name is Julia Ross, if you really want to pick at the plot, there are a lot of...
Holes.
Yes, but it doesn't matter. Not when you have someone like Siodmak and Joseph H. Lewis as a director. But especially with Siodmak, there are some scenes in this film which I can guarantee my audience. If you see it once, you will never forget it. And of course, we're talking about a scene, and again, I do not know how it got past the censors.
Oh, the drumming solo scene with Elijah Cook.
With punching bag Elijah Cook Jr., right. That is a scene. It could be the only orgasm scene of the 40s in American films.
It's very interesting because there is quite a bit of correspondence between Universal and Joseph Breen, the head of the Production Control Authority of the Motion Picture MPAA, that was the chief censor. And he was really trying to get Harrison and Universal to tone this scene down. So I don't think Breen and the people that worked for him were the most discerning. In other words, it had to be right out there.
Mm-hmm.
They did tone it down a little. Breen was more concerned of the overt sex appeal of making sure that Ella Raines, who gives a magnificent performance in this, that her breasts weren't visible, and that there was no overt reference to the Elijah Cook and the other musicians in the scene being hopheads, being on dope. But I noticed that Siodmak and Harrison snuck in another scene after the drum solo. They go back to Cook's apartment, and she's kind of pumping him about where he got this money. And he says, "I spend my money on other things, baby." They were get a lot of these things in under the radar. And quite frankly, I don't think it occurred to the censors what was going on in that scene. I think it went right over their heads.
Oh, there's no question about it. And briefly, let's talk about the cast. You're so right. Ella Raines is superb in this film. My favorite scene of hers is actually a silent scene, and it's the bar scene where she is planting those intense laser eyes on the...
on Andrew Combs, the bartender.
Yeah, and it is magnificent to see. She has a great power, which, unfortunately, other than the few films, has never been totally explored. There were maybe 3 or 4 performances where she was able to really step out, but then it was always back into lesser films and lesser roles. She deserved, I think, more. As for Franchot Tone, and for obvious reasons, I do not want to go into detail. We'll leave that for our audience to discover. But I don't believe he ever played this type of role before. He was out of MGM after, I think, about 6 years or 5 years, where he mostly played intelligent, witty society types. And it would have, if I would have been around in the 30s, it would have been difficult for me to conceive that he actually could play this type of role, which he does, I think, to absolute perfection.
He's really, really good in this. I think you're right about Tone, that this really opened up a new vista of him from the high society type cavorting with Jean Harlow in Bombshell, talking about running through wet grass together,
Yeah.
playing something that much more dark. Ella Raines, I think you're absolutely right. She never really got her due at all. And the one picture that I really love her in is a 1944 film, also directed by Robert the Oddmac, The Suspect.
Yes, yes.
There is the almost on paper inconsequential romance between Charles Lawton and Ella Raines. But when you see the film, it somehow works.
Yes, yes, it does, and that really is amazing. You know, this is the first show in the 16-year run of DVD Classics Corner on the Air that I've ever covered Arrow Academy product, and I have to say I am extremely impressed. They somehow have managed to get really good prints of both Phantom Lady and My Name is Julia Ross, and their packaging is superb, their extra features are wonderful, and this is a company that I hope to be doing a lot of business with in the future. Let's go to Alan K. Rhodey and find out what is on your agenda for these next few months.
I'm going to be doing some other work for Arrow, but I'm also preparing for the 21st year of Noir City Hollywood at the Egyptian Theater, and Eddie and I will be co-hosting that. And then from there, I'm celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Arthur Lyons Film Noir Festival in Palm Springs at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, formerly the Camelot Theaters, that has been the home of this festival for its entire run. And I'm planning that, and we're planning a big festival to celebrate 20 years. And those events are upcoming, and of course I'm very excited about all of that.
Alan, it is such a delight to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to the next time. And please keep doing what you're doing, and more of those commentaries, because your commentary on My Name is Julia Ross is what a commentary should be. It's wonderful to listen to, so keep on doing what you're doing.
Dick, I really appreciate the kind words, and I enjoy being on your show so much because you and I share the same passion for these films and for this era. And we also share some of the same friends, some departed and some still with us.
Right.
So, I'll keep doing it if you do.
You can depend on it. Thank you so much, Alan, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, Dick. It was a pleasure.
Well, that's my show for today. DVD Classics Corner on the Air is conceived, written, produced, and directed by me, Double D. And if you'd like to hear some of my older vintage shows, please go to www.dvdclassicscorner.net, where in addition to the broadcasts, you'll find hundreds of my print reviews of classic DVD releases. So, until next week,
keep well, keep happy, and keep listening.